When Michael came home that night with divorce papers, he thought he knew exactly who his wife was. A helpless housewife. A burden. Someone who did nothing but complain and spend his money. But when Emily calmly agreed to sign those papers, and then pulled out a thick folder from her dresser, Michael's entire world was about to shatter, because what she revealed in that folder would expose the most devastating truth of his life. A truth that would destroy everything he believed about himself, and make him realize he had just thrown away the most incredible woman he'd ever known. And before we continue, please write in the comments where you're from and how old you are. Okay, let's enjoy the story. Emily stirred her cooled tea with a spoon, gazing out the window. Outside, a fine autumn rain was falling, blurring the colors of the panel buildings across the street. The day dragged on slowly, as it always did when Michael was at work. She sighed, set the mug aside, and returned to her laptop on the kitchen table. The screen flickered with the freelance exchange page. A new order. Designing a logo for a small online store. Emily smiled. She enjoyed this work. From a housewife buried in diapers and pots, she had transformed into a sought-after designer. And most importantly, she was earning money. Lately, significantly more than Michael. She opened the graphic editor and dove into the task. Ideas swirled in her head, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Outside, it grew dark. The rain intensified, drumming against the glass. The front door slammed. "I'm home," came Michael's tired voice. Emily quickly minimized the design window, leaving open a page from a cooking blog. "Hi," she replied, trying to sound casual. "How was your day?" Michael walked into the kitchen, tossed his keys on the table, and slumped into a chair wearily. "Same as usual," he grumbled. "Everything's on me. This company only stays afloat because of me." Emily stayed silent. She knew this script all too well. Michael worked as a sales manager at a small firm supplying building materials. He didn't like the job, but never looked for another. He said stability mattered more. "What's for dinner?" he asked, not looking at her. "Meatballs with potatoes," Emily replied. "Almost ready." Meatballs again. Michael wrinkled his nose. "Can't you come up with something more interesting?" Emily felt a wave of irritation rising inside her. She'd spent the whole day bustling around the house, taking care of their son, cooking, washing, cleaning, and now she had to listen to complaints about meatballs. "If you don't like it, you can cook yourself," she snapped back sharply. Michael looked at her in surprise. "Why are you so angry?" he asked. "I was just sharing my opinion." "And I'm just tired," Emily retorted. "All day alone with Tommy." "Oh, sure, of course," Michael smirked. "Such hard work sitting at home." Emily clenched her fists under the table. She felt a wall of misunderstanding growing between them. Michael spoke to her more and more in that condescending, irritated tone. He thought she did nothing, that her life was easy and carefree. He didn't see her sitting up nights at the computer, worrying over every order, striving to earn even a little money to help the family. He only saw a housewife in a greasy robe, always nagging and demanding money. "Fine, forget it," Michael said, turning away. "Where's Tommy?" "Playing in his room," Emily answered. Michael got up and went to their son's room. Emily stayed at the table, staring out the window. The rain poured harder. Suddenly, she felt incredibly sad and alone. A few days later, Sophia appeared in their home. Michael had met her at work. She was a client, owning a small firm dealing in interior finishing. Sophia immediately appealed to Michael. Cheerful, uninhibited, self-assured, she was nothing like Emily. "Emily, meet Sophia," Michael said when he brought her home. "Sophia, this is my wife, Emily." Sophia extended her hand to Emily. "Very nice to meet you," she said, smiling. "Michael's told me so much about you." Emily looked at her husband doubtfully. What could he have told Sophia about her? That she was a housewife who did nothing. "Nice to meet you, too," Emily replied, trying to be polite. Sophia turned out to be quite pleasant to talk to. She spoke about her business, her plans, her travels. Emily listened with interest and envy. She, too, wanted to be that free and independent. Michael and Sophia talked the whole evening. They discussed work matters, joked, laughed. Emily felt out of place in their company. She quietly set the table, served tea, and went to her son's room. From then on, Sophia started visiting often, sometimes alone, sometimes with Michael. They drank tea, chatted, laughed. Emily felt Michael drifting further from her and growing closer to Sophia. One evening after Sophia left, Emily couldn't hold back. "What's going on between you two?" she asked Michael. Michael looked at her in surprise. "What do you mean?" he asked. "You spend all your time with Sophia," Emily said. "You've stopped paying any attention to me." "Don't be ridiculous," Michael replied. "We're just friends." "Friends?" Emily smirked. "You think I'm blind?" "I see how you look at her." Michael fell silent. "I'm tired of you," he finally said. "You're always unhappy, always nagging. You've become so boring and uninteresting." Emily felt tears welling up in her throat. "And what do you suggest?" she asked. "I don't know," Michael answered. "Maybe we should live apart?" Emily turned away silently. She knew this was the end. Their marriage had been cracking for a long time, and now it had finally fallen apart. The next day, Michael came home late. Emily waited for him, sitting on the couch in the dim living room. She hadn't turned on the lights, leaving only the floor lamp casting a soft, diffused glow over the room. Tension hung in the air, thick enough to touch. She knew this day would come. She had felt it approaching in every cold glance, every sharp word, every late night at work. He entered without looking at her, tossed his keys on the hallway table. "You're still up?" he asked, trying to sound casual, but his voice was strained. "Waiting for you," Emily replied quietly. Michael walked into the room, slumped into the chair across from her. He looked exhausted, shadows under his eyes. His face held a sense of doom. Emily saw right through him. She knew what was about to happen. "We need to talk," he began, avoiding her gaze. Emily nodded without a word. She let him start, knowing he needed it. Michael pulled a folder from his briefcase and placed it on the coffee table between them. "Here's the divorce papers." Emily didn't flinch. She had expected this, but the words still hit like a punch to the gut. Inside, everything tightened, but outwardly, she remained calm. "I'm tired, Emily." Michael continued. "Tired of all this, the routine, the constant household issues, of you." He lifted his eyes, meeting hers. There was no love, no regret in them, only fatigue and irritation. "I know it's hard to hear, but I can't do this anymore. I feel trapped. You're always nagging me, demanding something. I don't even know what. You're always dissatisfied." Emily stayed silent, letting him vent. She knew it was important not to interrupt, not to defend herself. Let him spill all the anger and resentment built up inside. "I get that you're home with the kid. It's tough, but you do nothing to change things. You don't work. You don't grow. You just exist. And I have to carry everything on my back." Emily felt a surge of rage inside. How could he say that? How could he not see how much she did for the family? How much effort she put into creating comfort and coziness in their home? But she held back, not letting emotions take over. "I want lightness, Emily. I want a woman beside me who understands, supports, not one who constantly nags and reproaches." And then he said the words that shattered her heart completely. "I have another woman, Sophia. With her, it's easy and good. She understands me, supports me, asks for nothing in return. With her, I feel alive." Emily closed her eyes. She had known about their closeness, felt it, but held out hope until the end that it was just a fleeting fling, that he'd come to his senses and returned to her. But now, it was over. He'd chosen her. "I know it hurts, but I don't want to deceive you. I want to be honest. I love Sophia. I want to be with her." He fell silent, waiting for her reaction. Silence hung in the room, broken only by the quiet ticking of the clock on the wall. Emily opened her eyes and looked at him. There were no tears, no hysteria in her gaze, only calm and resolve.
"Fine, Michael,"
she said quietly.
"I'll sign the papers."
He looked at her in astonishment. He had expected screams, reproaches, tears, anything, but not this serene agreement. You're not going to try to talk me out of it?" he asked uncertainly. "Why would I?" Emily replied. "If you've made your decision, I won't hold you back." She stood from the couch, approached the table, picked up the folder, flipped through the documents, studying them carefully. "Everything's in order," she said. "It's all correct. She placed the folder back on the table. "You can go now, Michael." He remained seated in the chair, as if glued to it. He didn't understand what was happening. He had braced for a storm, a scandal, but got only quiet consent. It threw him off. You're not angry?" he asked. "No, Michael," Emily answered. "I'm not angry. I'm just tired. Tired of you, of our relationship, of all this." She walked to the window, gazing at the night city. Lights twinkled in the distance, creating an illusion of life and movement. "I think we'll both be better off apart." Michael rose from the chair and approached her. He wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. "Forgive me, Emily," he muttered. "It's okay, Michael," she replied. Emily looked at Michael as if seeing him for the first time. In his eyes splashed something new, alien, a mix of guilt, confusion, and fear. He, always so self-assured, so condescending toward her household chores, now stood before her, utterly lost. He waited for her reaction, waited for hysterics, pleading, maybe even a scandal. But Emily was silent. She had already cried out all her tears, all her pain. Inside, only emptiness remained. And that emptiness gave her strength. She turned and headed to the old worn dresser in the corner of the room. She opened the top drawer and pulled out a thick folder tied with a satin ribbon. The ribbon had once been part of a gift wrapping, but Emily had kept it, like many other things, in hope for better times. Returning to the table, she placed the folder in front of Michael. "Here's everything," she said calmly, pointing to it with her hand. "Everything you need to know." Michael frowned. He had expected anything but this. "What is this?" he asked suspiciously, eyeing the folder. Emily sighed. "Open it and see." Reluctantly, he reached for the folder and untied the ribbon. Beneath it were bank statements, accounting reports, screenshots from freelance platforms, client contracts. Michael began scanning the documents, his face changing gradually. From surprise to disbelief. From disbelief to horror. The first statement showed modest amounts, small fees for logo designs, presentation formatting, ad banners. But as he flipped further, the figures grew larger. Here was payment for a major project, developing a brand style for an online store. There, a fee for creating a website for a tourism company. And here, monthly transfers to her savings account, sums far exceeding his salary. Michael lifted his eyes to Emily. "What does this mean?" he whispered, as if afraid to hear the answer. "It means," Emily replied, looking him straight in the eyes, "that for the last 2 years, I've been earning more than you, significantly more." Michael continued leafing through the documents. He saw that Emily not only earned money but managed it wisely. She invested, opened deposits, saved for the future, and all this without telling him a word. On the table appeared the next stack of papers. Estimates, contracts with a renovation crew, receipts from hardware stores. "What's this?" Michael asked, with less confidence in his voice. "This is the renovation," Emily answered. "The renovation I planned for our apartment. A surprise for our wedding anniversary. But apparently, the surprise isn't for you." She pointed to another pile of papers, printouts from a language school website, brochures describing advanced courses for engineers. "And this is courses," Emily continued. "Courses I wanted to enroll you in. You've dreamed of a promotion for so long, complained about lacking skills. I wanted to help you, but apparently you need a different kind of help." Michael was silent. He stared at the documents as if at a sentence. His world, his ideas about himself, about Emily, about their relationship crumbling before his eyes. He had always seen himself as the breadwinner, the head of the family, the one ensuring their well-being. But it turned out he'd been living in an illusion all this time. Emily stood and walked to the window. Evening was slowly descending outside. The city, lit up with lights. "I wanted everything to be good for us," she said quietly. "I wanted you to be happy, but you chose another path." She turned to Michael. "I saved money not just for the renovation and courses," she continued. "I was setting aside for a vacation. We were supposed to go to Italy, to Venice. You dreamed of seeing that city so much. But now I'll go there, with our son, alone." Michael bowed his head. He felt crushed, humiliated. He realized he'd lost not only his wife, but also his self-respect. He understood he'd made a huge mistake, but it was too late. "Why are you showing me all this?" he asked, lifting eyes full of despair to her. "I want you to know," Emily replied. "To know that I'm not the burden you took me for. I'm not a helpless housewife sitting on your neck. I'm a strong, independent woman who can take care of herself and our son, too." She approached him closely and looked straight into his eyes. "You betrayed me, Michael," she said quietly. "You betrayed our love, our family. And I'm not going to forgive you." She gathered the documents from the table and put them back in the folder. Tied it with the ribbon. "You can pack your things," she said, pointing to the door. "And leave forever." Michael stood as if paralyzed. He couldn't believe what was happening. He had always thought Emily would wait for him, that she'd forgive him. But in her eyes, he saw such determination, such firmness, that he understood there was no hope left. He slowly rose, grabbed his jacket, and headed for the door. He stopped in the doorway and turned. "Emily," he whispered, "forgive me." Emily didn't respond. She simply stood by the window, gazing at the city, at the lights twinkling in the darkness. She was looking to the future, to a new life where there was no place for Michael. As Michael left the apartment and the door closed behind him, Emily felt an enormous weight lift from her shoulders. She felt free. She approached the mirror and looked at her reflection. In the mirror, she saw not the tired, insecure woman she used to be. She saw a strong, beautiful, confident woman ready for new challenges, new victories, a new life. She smiled at her reflection. "Everything will be fine," she whispered. Everything will definitely be fine. And she believed it, believed in herself, believed in her future. Michael's relationship with Sophia, which had started so passionately and promised lightness, began to crack faster than Emily could have imagined. That lightness Michael craved turned into plain irresponsibility and unwillingness to handle everyday problems. Sophia, accustomed to fun and a glamorous life, proved completely unfit for the realities of shared living, especially when money grew noticeably scarcer. Michael was fired. Staff cuts, as management explained, but he knew full well his constant lateness and distraction played a big role. Now he, the former family head, found himself dependent on Sophia, who in turn looked at him more and more with reproach and irritation. Days turned into a series of petty quarrels and mutual accusations. Sophia blamed Michael for lacking prospects, for not job hunting actively enough. Michael, in turn, accused Sophia of being mercenary and unwilling to support him in tough times. "I thought you were different," she yelled. "You said you had it all under control, that you were successful, and now what? You're sitting on my neck." Michael, used to the quiet and comfort Emily created, now lived in constant noise and chaos. Sophia didn't bother with cleaning, preferring time with friends or on social media. The fridge was empty, and dinner consisted of ready-made meals that Michael prepared himself, feeling humiliated and helpless. On one such evening, when Sophia left for another party, leaving him alone, Michael couldn't take it anymore. He pulled out his phone and frantically dialed Emily's number. The rings dragged on agonizingly long. He had almost lost hope when her calm voice answered. "Emily, it's Michael. I'm listening." Her voice was even, without a hint of gloating or sympathy. I need to talk to you." "We've already talked, Michael. Everything that needed saying has been said." "No, you don't understand. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. Everyone makes mistakes, Michael. The important thing is learning from them. I realize what I've lost. Lost the most valuable thing I had. You lost it long ago, Michael, when you started lying and betraying. I ask for forgiveness, Emily. Forgive me. Give me a chance to fix everything. I want to come back." Silence hung on the line. Michael held his breath, waiting for an answer. It felt like an eternity before Emily spoke again. "Come back where? To the past?" "That's impossible, Michael. The past is in the past. I live in the present and look to the future. And in that future, there's no place for you." "But what about us? What about our son? You can see our son anytime. I'll never stand in the way of your communication. But between us, it's over. I love you, Emily. Michael cried out desperately. "You don't love me, Michael. You love your illusion. An illusion of what a wife should be, what life should be. But reality turned out different, didn't it? Give me a chance, Emily. I'll fix everything. I'll change." "You won't change, Michael. You'll always seek the easy way. And life isn't an easy path. It's work on yourself, on relationships. And you're not ready for that. Please, goodbye, Michael. And try not to call again." Emily hung up. Michael was left alone in the dark room, phone in hand, emptiness in his soul. He understood he'd lost everything: his wife, his family, his job, his self-respect. He'd destroyed his own life, and now he had to reap the fruits of his mistakes. Emily, on the other hand, felt relief. The conversation with Michael put a final period on their relationship. She no longer felt anger, resentment, or pity, only a light sadness about how it all turned out. She focused on her son and her work. Her business flourished, bringing not just steady income, but satisfaction too. She rented a spacious apartment in a new neighborhood, where her son had his own room full of toys and books. Emily started attending photography courses she'd long dreamed of. She met with friends, went to movies and theaters. She lived a full life, enjoying every day. One day, scrolling through social media, Michael stumbled upon Emily's page. He saw her photos happy, smiling, confident. She stood against the backdrop of a Venetian canal, camera in one hand. In the other, she held the hand of an unfamiliar man. Michael felt a sharp pain in his chest. He realized Emily was truly happy without him. She'd found her love, her life, and he could never be part of it again. He closed the laptop and leaned back in his chair. Fragments of memories swirled in his head. Their wedding, the birth of their son, quiet evenings by the fireplace. It all seemed so long ago, like in another life. He recalled her words, "You don't love me, Michael. You love your illusion." He understood she was right. He loved not Emily, but his image of an ideal family. And when reality didn't match his expectations, he ran from responsibility, from problems, from himself. Now he was left alone, without family, without work, without hope. He realized his mistake, but it was too late. Emily had moved on, leaving him alone with the bitter loss and the awareness of a missed chance. Emily, looking at her reflection in the mirror, smiled. She saw before her a strong, independent woman who had survived betrayal and pain but hadn't broken. She'd rebuilt her life anew, and now a bright future awaited her. She knew everything would be fine. She deserved it. She took her son by the hand, and together they stepped out into the street. Ahead lay a new day, full of joy and hopes. And in that day, there was no room for the past, only for the present and the future. All right, thanks for listening.